connection holds.
All right. The first question is from Chiba9291 in Toronto, Canada. James North's Sheer Post article says Israel is provoking the U.S. into a conflict with Iran. Do you agree, especially in light of the assassination of Iran's top commander in Syria, Razi Musan? You have 3 minutes to answer the question.
Well, in short, the answer is yes. It's not just the assassination of the Iranian commander in Syria. Israel has assassinated a Hamas commander in Beirut, which is an attack in Beirut, which is a red line for Hezbollah, promote a larger conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, and by extension drag Iran into it. And today there was a twin suicide bombing in Kerman, Iran, on the occasion of the anniversary, I think the 4th anniversary of the assassination by the United States of Qasem Soleimani, the legendary Iranian Quds Force leader. The death toll is mounting. Last I saw, it was well over 100 people. And again, Iran is blaming Israel for this. And the bottom line is there will be retaliation. And the idea is, see, Netanyahu right now can't get his war council to agree to attack Iran, to initiate the conflict. And plus, Israel knows that they can't take Iran on alone, that they need the United States to join. The United States just doesn't want to do it. So what Israel's doing is provoking Hamas, provoking Hezbollah, provoking Iran into carrying out an attack against Israel that would justify Israel turning to the United States and saying, we have to respond against Iran. So this clearly is a trap for the United States.
Are you finding it difficult to keep up with the news while you're traveling there, or you have enough time to check the internet and so forth?
I mean, it takes a commitment, but no, I'm reading the news every morning, and then every night before I go to bed, and then if I can during the day, I'll follow it.
All right, good, because we don't want our favorite weapons inspector when he's out of the loop, only when you're in the loop. Let's move on to our next question. Iran is on
the idea being to deliberately provoke Hezbollah into responding, which would
in the minds of a lot of folks. Sammy in Belgium, does the Iranian warship Alborz pose any significant threat to the U.S., and will this escalate things further?
I don't believe it poses a significant threat to the United States. It's a single ship. I think it's accompanied by some logistics ship. We could sink that ship in a millisecond if we wanted to. But the problem is that's escalation that we don't want. What the Iranians are doing is getting in our space, getting in our head, making operations in the region more complicated, more difficult. But Iran's not going to attack the United States. They're not going to start the fight first. They're putting that ship out there as sort of a deterrence to say, here we are. The Iranians may screen the Houthi, compelling the United States to either, ignore what the Houthi are doing or sink an Iranian ship, thereby generating the excuse for a broader war with Iran, which the United States doesn't want. And why don't we want it? Because we can't win. Sinking an Iranian ship is not a victory, because we'll sink that ship, then Iran will destroy our bases in the region, maybe sink other American ships. That's not the fight we want. And then once it's started, how do we finish it? We don't have sufficient forces to finish the job. So it become one of these perpetual conflicts, which we never win. I mean, yeah, we can take a submarine, the USS Florida's floating off the area, 124 cruise missiles, and we can cycle those cruise missiles through a target list. And then when we're done, that's 124 targets we hit. And so what? The Iranians have been preparing for this years. There's nothing we're going to do to the Iranians that will take them by surprise. So, and then we're stuck with a never-ending conflict. And, as history has showed, we always end up quitting because we don't have staying power. And that's the last thing we want or need at this point in time. So the Iranian ship isn't a threat in terms of it, able to directly threaten Americans, but it's definitely a hindrance.
All right, we have a voicemail message from a woman who has a theory about the Netanyahu, and she wants to get your take on this theory.
Hi, Scott. I have a theory, and I'd like to know your opinion. Netanyahu is on thin ice, of course, but now he's really sunken through the ice now that judicial reform has not passed. At the same time, the IDF has publicly announced that they're taking troops out of Gaza, more than just the Golani Brigade, a substantial amount of troops. I'm wondering, I mean, of course, they took the troops out because they were getting their ass kicked. But do you think it was also because the war cabinet wants to put them on the border of Lebanon and focus on the Lebanese front, since they now killed a major Hamas leader in Beirut, and Hezbollah has since 2006 said that if Israel ever attacks Beirut, they will attack Tel Aviv. As you've mentioned many times, Hezbollah is no joke. So it'd be pretty crazy for the Israelis to, take on that bluff. But do you think because Netanyahu is now really screwed because of the judicial reform thing not passing, that this is his last Hail Mary to be sort of the dictator in power? Do you think he actually wants Hezbollah to attack Tel Aviv?
The short answer is yes, he does, because it's his only look. Netanyahu doesn't care about Israel. We need to be clear about that. He cares about Netanyahu. If he cared about Israel, he would have withdrawn from the political stage a long time ago. Nobody who could claim to care about Israel would have formed the government that he has formed, this far right-wing government that has dug Israel into a hole internationally. His judicial reforms, the reforms of basic law, were designed to allow his political wing to take control of the judiciary, to block any effort by the judiciary to follow through on his indictments on corruption, charges that if he went to trial and was found guilty would put him in jail for life. He's a very corrupt man, or innocent until proven guilty. So he's been alleged to have been a very corrupt man, a very naughty boy. And, his right now, if he's going to be thrown out. He's one of the most unpopular prime ministers out there. The only thing that keeps him in is this war. And if he starts withdrawing troops from Gaza, that's implying that the war is moving in a different phase, one that doesn't necessitate the kind of emergency powers and emergency governance that Netanyahu has assumed since October 7th. So he needs a new war, an expanded war, and that war will be with Hezbollah and then hopefully with Iran if the United States can be brought in. So this is what he's hoping. He's hoping that he can redeem himself through fire, redeem himself through conflict, through war. And he's looking for a broader conflict. I'm hoping that his war cabinet will tell him no, because the reality is, if you think that the Hamas whipped up on the IDF in Gaza, you ain't seen nothing yet. If Hezbollah ever unleashes the full weight of its military capability, they will kick at Israel's ass from sundown to sunset.
All right. The next question is from Charles Whitaker in Singapore. What do you make of the reports by the Hindustan Times that Hamas is using Chinese weapons and that an Iranian drone attacked an Indian ship?
Well, I mean, a report is a report. I don't have any independent way to confirm what the Hindustan Times has reported. If they have evidence that Hamas is using Chinese weapons, why not? Hamas, will acquire weapons on the global market directly or indirectly. So it's possible. There's nothing suspicious about it. China sells weapons on the global market. There are middlemen out there who sell. Hamas is using American weapons. Hamas is using Russian-made weapons, North Korean-made weapons. Hamas will use whatever weapons they can get their hands on. So it doesn't, it doesn't shock me that those weapons are there. About the drone attack, again, something happened. There's stories that it was an Iranian drone. It makes no sense, but if there's evidence to back that up, then so be it. Put the evidence on the table. But there's literally no reason for Iran to be attacking an Indian ship in the Indian Ocean. There's no justification for it, and it just doesn't matter. Iran doesn't go out of its way to create unnecessary provocations, not at a time when they're trying to manage the escalation of the conflict between Israel and Gaza and Israel and Hezbollah. They don't need to go out and confuse things even more. But again, Hindustan Times is a newspaper. They have sources. If they're going to make that claim, maybe they should put some evidence on the table to back it up.
All right, we're getting comments from Twitter. We'll make sure we get a couple of those inserted. This is the first time, or X, I mean, this is the first time we've been able to insert them directly. That is a good thing. The next question comes from, hold on, let me do it. Sorry about that. Mohammed Saleh in London. How is the assassination of the Hamas leader in Beirut going to affect the war effort against the occupation forces? Sometimes you've already kind of answered these questions. That's because you don't see these questions in advance. So it's a little bit redundant, but you want to take another shot at this one?
Certainly. Look, one of the big things that was happening that could lead to potentially the Egyptians about the release of hostages and about bringing humanitarian goods in. And what the assassination has done is that Hamas has stopped talking with everybody. They've just pulled back and said there is no talk going on right now. That means that the Israeli hostages that are in Gaza will continue to suffer, continue to be prisoner. It also means that there won't be a ceasefire. That the go on. This is what Israel wanted. See, Israel was looking at progress being made. Hamas was being reasonable. Hamas was saying, we killed was actually somebody that the Egyptians don't have high regard for the mainstream Hamas leadership. But the guy they killed in Beirut, the Egyptians could talk to. They were talking to. They were talking, through Hamas, talking to Hamas through him, through his offices. This was a guy that was held in high regard. He would meet with the king of Jordan. He would meet with other Arab leaders. This was the kind of guy that if you want to deal with Hamas, you want to be in Hamas. This is why Israel killed him, because they don't want people dealing with Hamas. So it's shut down lines of communication. There's no talk going on right now. And what it's done is it's guaranteed an extension of the conflict, which gives Israel continued carte blanche to slaughter Palestinian civilians.
Here's a voicemail message from a gentleman named Hazir.
Hello, Scott. Hope you're doing well. This question comes from Kurt from Iran regarding the reshaping of the world order within the next 25 years. Given the waning power of the United States due to its relentless overstretch and hegemony, are we going to witness a new superpower seizing the throne from the United States, namely China, within the next 25 years? Or is it going to be check and balance between the superpowers, like China in cahoot with Russia and EU with the United States, sort of like a Cold War? And we people in this region falling victim as pawns on a chessboard?
Well, it's a good question. I think the answer is in the intent of, because the United States is clearly on the decline. First of all, guys, when I say it's on the decline, that doesn't mean that we've collapsed tomorrow. We're still a superpower. We're still one of the greatest powers in the world today, but we are seeing the limits of this power. And we're also realizing that many of the things that combine together to make America the power that it is, our economy, our military, our political system, are suffering, going through difficulties. And so, collectively, they represent, a weakening America. And then the vacuum that's created, it's being filled by others. Look, if China wanted to be a global superpower like the United States, then it could probably position itself to fill that down the road. Fortunately, China has no desire to become the new America. Neither does Russia. Both China and Russia instead are looking for a multipolar world. This is where institutions like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or BRICS become very important. It's very difficult to speak of Iran or Saudi Arabia or Egypt becoming pawns in a new superpower race when they have joined BRICS, and Russia and China will be expanding BRICS to bring in even more pawns, potential pawns. Why? Because Russia doesn't want to play that game. China doesn't want to play that game. They want to deal with a multipolar world that is a law-based international order, not a rules-based international order. And that's the direction that we're drifting to right now. And so I'm rather optimistic that in the next 25 years, you're going to see nations like Iran, nations like Saudi Arabia, nations like Egypt able to project themselves onto the international stage in a manner that reflects their sovereignty, meaning that they will do what they want to do, as opposed to being pawns of a larger game being played by global superpowers.
All right, let's take a question coming in live on Twitter, or on X. I mean, I got to get in the habit of saying X. Sophoros on X. Did the U.S. know about the domestic Iran attack? Because a day or two, they pulled back the aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean, maybe to prevent any missile attack.
Yeah, I mean, look, but the aircraft carrier that was pulled back was the USS Gerald Ford that was in the Mediterranean. I believe that Dwight D. Eisenhower is still operating in the Red Sea region, although it's been pulled back away from the Yemeni coast. And I think the third carrier, which is operating in the Pacific in the vicinity of Singapore, it might be the Carl Vinson, I don't know, hasn't been brought into the region. But the Dwight D. Eisenhower was in the Persian Gulf a couple of weeks ago, and they pulled that out because they realized how vulnerable it was to Iranian attack if there was this escalation. So they got it the hell out of the Persian Gulf, because if things went south real quick, that's a major asset that would be lost.